Hi, welcome to Real English Lab, where learning English is fun and simple. Let's dive in.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive? Today we're tackling something that can be super tricky, especially when you're learning English.
Small talk.
Exactly. Those little chats you have in everyday situations. It's something native speakers do without even thinking, but it can be a real challenge when English isn't your first language.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we're going to focus on a classic scenario, striking up a conversation at a coffee shop.
Ah, the coffee shop, a breeding ground for small talk. To get us started, we're going to be using a conversation from a language learning podcast, Pasted Text. They do this fun thing where they set up realistic dialogues, kind of like acting out a scene.
Great resource, yeah. Super helpful for our purposes because we can actually see how small talk plays out in a natural setting.
So let's get right into it. The scenario is pretty simple. Two strangers are waiting in line at a coffee shop, and one of them decides to break the ice.
Prime small talk territory.
Right. And the opening line is, "Hi there, is this your first time here?" Now, before we go any further, I want to point out that this is a really effective conversation starter, especially for beginners. Why do you think that is?
Well, for starters, it's friendly and approachable. There's
Yeah.
no pressure, right? It's not like you're coming on too strong or trying to be overly clever.
Exactly. And it's open-ended. You're inviting the other person to share something about themselves.
Which is key, right? Because people love talking about themselves. It makes them feel heard and seen.
Okay, so in the pasted text example, the other person replies, "No, I come here pretty often. They have the best lattes."
Ah, the classic best lattes line. But seriously, notice the positive language. Right away, they're setting a friendly, enthusiastic tone.
Yeah, like you're already on the same page. You both like this coffee shop. You both appreciate a good latte. Instant connection.
Exactly. And it opens up all sorts of avenues for the conversation to continue. You could ask what their favorite drink is, or maybe recommend something else to try.
So we've broken the ice. Now, how do we keep the conversation going? What are some other phrases that can help us navigate this small talk territory?
Well, pasted text gives us some great examples. Do you come here often? That's a classic, of course. But they also use, I love how cozy this cafe is, which is a nice way to compliment the atmosphere. And then there's, what do you usually order? Again, inviting the other person to share their preferences.
And it shows that you're genuinely interested.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're not just making conversation for the sake of it. You actually want to know more about this person.
Exactly. And remember, these phrases are super adaptable. You can use them in all sorts of situations, not just at a coffee shop.
I love that. It's like building blocks for conversations.
Exactly.
Speaking of building blocks, let's talk about something that can trip up even the most confident English learner. Making mistakes.
Oh, yeah. Mistakes are part of the process, though. Everyone makes them. But there are some common ones that we can definitely avoid.
Pasted text highlights a few that are especially relevant for beginners. One is the misuse of articles. You know, those little words like a, and the.
Those can be tricky.
So tricky. They use the example of "I love the cozy," which is a mistake a lot of learners make.
Yeah, because in English, we wouldn't say it like that. We'd say something like, I love how cozy it is, or this place is cozy. It's a subtle difference, but it makes a big difference to a native speaker.
Another common mistake is forgetting those all-important polite expressions. I remember when I first started learning English, I would get so caught up in trying to remember the grammar and vocabulary that I would completely forget to say please and thank you.
Oh, yeah, I've been there. It's like your brain is working overtime and those little social niceties slip through the cracks. But they're so important in English culture.
Absolutely. It's all about showing respect and consideration, even those brief interactions. And it's something that's emphasized in the coffee shop scenario. Both speakers use please, thank you, and excuse me naturally throughout the conversation.
It makes the whole exchange feel more polite and pleasant.
And let's not forget about contractions. Using contractions is another way to make your English sound more natural and less robotic.
Right. I mean, imagine saying, I am going to the store instead of I'm going to the store. The first one sounds so formal and stilted.
Exactly. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've looked at a real-life example of small talk in action. We've identified some key phrases that can help us keep those conversations flowing. And we've talked about some common mistakes to avoid.
What's the main takeaway for our listeners, especially those who are still getting comfortable with English?
I think the biggest thing is to remember that small talk is a skill. It's something you can learn and improve with practice.
And the best way to practice is to get out there and do it.
Right. Don't be afraid to strike up a conversation with someone at the coffee shop, the grocery store, wherever, even if it's just a simple, "Hello, how are you?" That's a great starting point.
And remember, you don't have to be perfect. Just be yourself, be polite, and be willing to learn. The more you practice, the more confident you'll become.
So next time you find yourself waiting in line for your morning caffeine fix, take a deep breath and give small talk a try. You might be surprised at how much you enjoy it. Until next time, happy chatting.
Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and see you next time. If you want more series, leave a comment and let us know.